Hello, hello, hello. Jim, are you okay?
Yeah, we're good over there on this side.
Okay.
Good. Jim over there? Excellent.
Fire away.
Al,
There we go.
thank you. We're going to start here with a little prayer from Chaplain John.
Move covers, please, gentlemen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before the throne today, thank you, Jesus. It's a privilege and honor to be here this moment. Lord, we pray that you'll take care of the nurses in the military as Mother George took care of them back then. Lord, we know that you have all of them in your sight. Take care of them. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, John. Okay, as most of you know, I most of the times talk about Mother George, but I'm not going to walk all over everybody else's presentation. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this Civil War area we had, and then we'll get moving along. These are just some of the things that when we do the tours out here that people have asked me, and I thought I would kind of explain to you so that people quit asking me these things. Over here, there's a lot of people ask why the West Virginia is listed as a Union state. And basically it's that way because we had to make it something. Because as you all probably know, West Virginia was a Confederate state, a border state, and a Union state. So we made it a Union state, but that's the reason. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this flag up here. People are always asking, why does that flag not have a light on it? Well, that's because it's not a 50-star flag, it's a 34-star flag. It is basically the flag that these gentlemen fought under. So it does not require a light. Now, all these headstones you see here, there is no one buried on these grounds. All of these men are buried where they fell on the battlefields. So there is no one buried on these grounds. So the next thing is this monument over here, the Sultana disaster. That monument was donated by Brother Cole and the Ben Harrison camp out of Indianapolis. They paid for the bronze plaque, and we dedicated that last year about the same time. So that's what that is. The Sultana disaster is the largest maritime disaster the United States ever had. It is actually worse than Pearl Harbor. There were 1,700 guys approximately killed, and it mostly happened because of someone's greed trying to load 2,300 troops on their way home on a ship that was licensed for 235. And then they tried to go upstream to Mississippi. So that's what this Sultana monument here is. We try to find things in history that people don't know about and then bring them out. So the Mother George plaque, which is right here, we will uncover in a minute. The plaque itself was donated by our Arsinoe Martin Circle of the Ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic and by Champion Hill, Camp 17 of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War out of Huntington, Indiana. The three stones that you'll see, those were donated by Amber Gonzalez there at Lindenwood Cemetery. The vault that the time capsule is in was donated by Minnick Services. Now this I'm just going to say this, the SUVCW is not a reenactor group, although many of our members do belong to reenactor groups. The purpose of the SUVCW is to take care of the memory of the Civil War veterans, and this includes their headstones, monuments, and things like this, keep their memory alive. So that's the purpose of the SUVCW. The SUVCW is completing the last soldier project. I do believe we have one county left, and what we tried to do is find the last surviving Civil War veteran in every county in Indiana. And I think we have one left, so we're doing pretty good on that. So since we're getting so close to finishing this project, we've worked up another project, and we found out that there's approximately 200 Civil War nurses in Indiana. So we're trying to find, where these nurses are buried, and what our plan is to put a medallion on each one of their headstones as we locate them. So if anyone knows where there's a Civil War nurse buried, just let us know so we can get that taken care of. And I just thought that I would explain to you why I got so involved in the Mother George. On Memorial Day, the 30th Indiana always goes through Lindenwood, and we stop at various places and fire volleys for the veterans there. And the first time I did it, we stopped at this, grave site for this nurse and fired volleys, and I thought, why, it's kind of strange. Why? So the more I looked into Mother George, though, the more I realized that this woman really deserves to have these volleys fired for her. And my thought is she's one of the biggest heroes Fort Wayne has. So it's someone you should really look into, and she really deserves it. And she was buried over there with, because some people say you're not supposed to fire volleys for civilians or things like that. Well, Mother George was buried with full military honors, and they fired volleys for her at that time. And if they thought it was good enough for them, it's good enough for us. So anyway, that's what I was wanting to talk to you about. And I would like to introduce Eric Johnson here. Eric is the senior or first vice commander of the National Veterans Shrine and Museum. And Eric's going to tell you a little bit about the property here.
Thank you, Tom Schmidt. Glad to see you up and around, and you're doing well.
Me too.
Yeah, me three. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's ceremony and attending this special tribute to Mother George. We welcome all of you. You might have noticed a few different changes when you walked onto the property, the first being the Vietnam Wall. There are no panels on the wall. It is currently being repaired. There's some cracks in the concrete that we're fixing. We're going to resurface the black color and put the panels back up. Thanking Smart Army 20, the sheet metal workers, for taking the care to get all the panels off, and for Hagerman Construction, who did the original project and are working to repair the concrete cracks that appear throughout the wall. The wall was poured in the middle of winter, so we figured there might be some conditions later that we might have to take care of because of the cold weather and all the chemicals they put in the concrete. So if you see the wall empty today, you'll see it back up by November 11th, which is Veterans Day, and we will rededicate it then. We have 970 feet of new sidewalk, you'll see, around we call it the walk path through history, and that has been completed, so anybody in a wheelchair or a walker or handicap or just people that want to walk and don't want to walk on grass, you got a clear path through all the monuments and the memorials, and we're very happy to announce that. Over by the Korean Monument, you'll see the new Gold Star Families Monument that was dedicated in June, and by the Woody Williams Foundation, honoring all those who were killed in different wars. And that's quite a monument. If you haven't seen it yet, check out the front and the back of that polished black granite monument. Up next, we have a World War II monument that's being worked on currently, which will be taking its home over there where Kenny's standing, right behind him. There'll be a World War II monument. Hopefully that'll be placed maybe before the end of the year. We're also working with an individual on World War I monument that we can place somewhere in the same area over here. We have just ordered the Indiana limestone for the Iraq, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and the OEF, OIF monuments will be over to your left here, and that's Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we'll be honoring those veterans very prominently back here next year. So pretty exciting things. In June, we also dedicated the 40 and 8 boxcar, which has been totally restored. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you walk to the front of the pavilion. It's got 2 separate entrances. It's in a room by itself. It's been totally restored. All the emblems from the French and the United States versions are on the car. And it's restored to its original color, and it's fantastic. And it's quite a macro artifact that we in charge of taking care of that very special piece of history. And then one last thing, if you walk by the Purple Heart Monument over to my left, you'll see that we're redoing the Purple Heart Monument. We've taken up all the old bricks that were cracked. We've reordered all bricks to be replaced, and we're working on displaying those bricks vertically. And I think Tim told me they were going to get after that starting next week. So we're very glad that, it's one thing to have a memorial, but it's another thing to maintain it and make sure that everything is pristine and representing veterans the way they need to be represented. Our mission here has always been to make sure no veteran will ever be forgotten. Eric Scott and his wife, that was their mantra when they opened the property in the early 50s, and we hold true to that today. But today we don't honor a veteran, but a nurse who served and saved many lives over 160 years ago. Over half of all deaths during the Civil War were caused as a result of infectious diseases. Leading the causes of death were diarrhea, dysentery, malaria, and chickenpox were among the most common. They were caused by close, poor living conditions, a lack of sufficient nutrition, and a constant troop movement with inadequate rest. Thank God for women like Mother George who dealt with these terrible conditions firsthand during the Civil War. She was truly a saint for all the lives she touched. Today we pay tribute to her legacy, and with this forever monument in her honor. Unfortunately, she did pass at an early age as a result of typhoid fever. God bless Mother George. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I need to make a correction here. Okay, we're going to unveil this monument, and the bronze plaque itself was donated by the ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic, the Arsinoe Martin Circle, and the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, Champion Hill Camp 17. However, I do not see any there. Gib Young is there. Okay, Gib, I didn't see you there, sorry. So if we could get a person from each one of them groups to unveil that, if you would like the ladies to do it. Okay, Gib doesn't, so if you ladies could unveil the monument, that would be great. should be an identical match to the Sultana monument. We made it that way intentionally. Thank you, ladies. Okay, now we're gonna unveil the time capsule that Brother Bruce Cole donated to us with the Sultana monument last year, but we just didn't wanna put it in until we got the Mother George in there beside it. So if Brother Cole could, unveil that monument, or that time capsule. Excellent. Thank you, Brother Cole. I do have one other thing I'm gonna do there, Mr. President, before, I would like to thank some groups here that I've been to on the way before. We have members of the 30th Indiana here that are helping us out. We have Brothers of the 14th in Michigan, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, SVR. These guys drove a long way to help us out. So. We have brothers from the 27th Indiana, that's Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, SVR. Of course, we have ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic here. Arsinoe Martin Circle. We have people from John Otten Camp, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. We have people from Benjamin Harrison Camp out of Indianapolis here to help us out. I notice we also have some ladies here from the Northeast Indiana Roundtable. So they're here to help us out. We also have Amber here from Lindenwood, who's over there passing out flyers and books. If you need any information or anything, just go over and see Amber. She'll give you what you need, I'm sure. So did I miss anyone? If I did, please yell at me. I like being yelled at. So if not, Mr. President.
I have never studied the art of paying compliments to women, but I must say that if all has been said by orators and poets since the creation of the world in praise of women were applied to the women of America, it would not do them justice for their conduct during our Civil War. Nothing has been more remarkable than the works for the relief of suffering soldiers and their families, and the chief agents in these works that have been done by the women of America. I would like to repeat a few words, not spoken by me, but spoken by Edward Everett at the dedication of the cemetery of war dead in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And he said, and I quote, "It has been said that it is characteristic of Americans to treat women with the deference not paid to them in any other country. This terrible war has been waged during this terrible war that has been waged, the women of the loyal states, if never before, have entitled themselves to our highest admirations and gratitude. Alike those who at home, often with fingers unused to toil, often bowed beneath their own domestic cares, have performed an amount of daily labor not exceeded by those who work for their daily bread, and those who in the hospitals and the tents of the sanitary and Christian commissions have rendered services which millions could not buy. Happily, the labor and the service are their own reward. Yes, brothers, sisters of charity, while you bind up the wounds of the poor sufferers, the humblest perhaps, that have shed their blood for the country, forget not who it is that will hereafter say to you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto me, unto the least of these brethren, ye have done it unto me. Thank you.
Okay, I do not want to know what happened to our Civil War surgeon. Now, sir, would you, thank you, Mr. President. Look, you have the same clothes on as everybody else over there. I didn't see it.
Okay, thanks. I'm really glad to see a good turnout today, and this is an exciting time to talk about Civil War medicine and the role that nurses played in the development of nursing during the Civil War. Let's just step back in time to April 12th, 1861, at the firing on Fort Sumter and the actual beginning of the Civil War. There were 115 surgeons in the military, United States military at that time. 27 of them left to go with the Confederacy. Most all of these so-called surgeons or physicians had never ever even seen a surgery, let alone done one. And so with this bunch of administrators, they were to be ready to go to take care of casualties, which they had no ability, comprehension, or organization ability to work with. They did have nurses. They were all mainly male. They could not function as a field soldier. They maybe had an injury. Maybe they were not real bright. Maybe they were a slacker overall. They were basically untrained, unmotivated, and very few of them. So you can see the situation that our troops faced, especially at the Battle of the First Bull Run. And it created chaos. Huge numbers of casualties were incurred, poor management, poor care. It was terrible. The medical service was stuck in tradition, and they did not want to change to that, but they had to because of the overwhelming numbers. They had untrained people, unqualified people, and they had heard about Florence Nightingale. They had heard about some of these nurses, but they were entrenched in their little nook, and they didn't want to change. Several medical directors tried to make some changes, but little happened. And by 1862, just as for example, regimental musicians were members of the hospital detail. Can you imagine that? Qualified people, and they didn't like that. So soon in the 1862 era, Doctors Hammond and Letterman realized the importance of nursing and extra people to take care of the wounded soldiers. And it was mentioned before, it's about 3 times the number of soldiers that were casualties because of disease and to every one wounded in battle. So in 1862, Congress passed a law for better care of the wounded and the sick. And so this was a big advantage. There was some funding, there was awareness, and there was support of expanding the nurses. So at that time also, they had the Christian and the sanitary commissions. They served as volunteer groups to help wounded soldiers. They had their hands tied in a lot of ways, but now that was being freed up and they were able to do more and more. Trained nurses back then were basically Catholic or Protestant nuns. And here's just a side note from Notre Dame here in Indiana. Black nurses were actually trained up there as nuns, and they served on the Red Rover, a hospital ship in the Mississippi flowage. And it's kind of impressive. Florence Nightingale influenced the nursing importance, and there's a strong Christian influence on nursing as it developed. There was a calling for them to help others. Eventually, just kind of sound like familiar today, or sometimes, wisdom prevailed among the medical directors, and nurses were embraced as saving angels. Thanks to the dedication, persistence, courage, and determination, Folks like Dorothea Dix, Clara Barton, Sally Tompkins, and others, by late 1862, realized a much improved system of the care of the wounded. This was seen readily at the Battle of Antietam in September of 1862, where Letterman's triage system and care system was employed by transporting the wounded and nursing. So I'm going to talk just briefly about Mother George. She served in the field, which is pretty amazing, and Amy's going to talk about that more. She was the mother-in-law of Colonel Sean Bass that we have a memorial over here every year. And he was wounded at Shiloh, died at Paducah. And Mother George's grandfather was in the Revolutionary War. Her father was in the War of 1812. And then with her son-in-law dying, prompted her service to her country and taking care of these poor young men that were in the field that were suffering and dying daily. The pioneering role of women during and after the Civil War changed dramatically. The roles of caregivers, of medical care, organizers, and administration was dramatically changed for improvements. This was also the beginnings of public health in our country. And we cannot say enough on the determination and thanks to the individuals who are motivated enough to continue as this in the nursing. So thank you so much for all the dedications and the sacrifice that they made. And it's fascinating to look up, if you have a chance, all the many, many different unsung nurses that did so many different things. And Amy's going to tell a lot about that today. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming. And we just honor Mother George among many others. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Well, it is your turn there, Mother George. So, Amy, would you come up and do your thing there?
Good afternoon. It's lovely to see you all here today, and it's so good to be back home in Fort Wayne for this short visit. It'll be very short. I'm in dire need of a little rest. I recently just left Sherman's army. He was on the Atlanta campaign, and you're well aware, I'm sure by now, that Atlanta has fallen. Sherman's army, I believe, is going further south, so they won't let me go with them. So I came up here for a short visit and a rest, if I have to. So about the North Georgia campaign, I was in the field with the Army. I was not in a hospital in Nashville. I'm working the fields. I am following the Army, tending to men's wounds, sometimes right where they fell. We worked night and day. I've had shells bursting just yards away from me. I did move quickly from that area. Sometimes I would just wrap myself in a blanket and sit down to try to get a little bit of rest. I would end up falling asleep there right on the ground. I would, I don't know how long I slept, but I would wake up. I don't think I slept long, but the moans of the wounded around me would awaken me, and I had to get up and tend to their needs. I can't really explain to you, I can't really describe to you just how brutal this war is and what these men are suffering. The soldiers have also given me the affectionate title. They call me Mother George. I'm quite proud of this title because it means I'm doing what I was meant to do. I did this to provide comfort, to provide help. And some of these soldiers, I will tell you, are just mere boys. They've barely left home. So, a soldier that's sick or wounded, a motherly figure provides a lot of comfort to that soldier that, no man can provide that kind of comfort. A little bit about my history. How did I get into nursing? you can tell I'm not my years are a little more advanced. But I applied with the U.S. Sanitary Commission in January of 1863. I knew I could be of use. I'm a widow, my children are grown, I'm not really needed in Fort Wayne anymore. I was reading the newspaper reports, I was hearing what people were saying from their letters that were being written home to them, and I just knew I could help, I could be of use. As I said, I applied with the U.S. Sanitary Commission. They turned me down because I was 54 years old. They thought that was much too old. Yes, I kind of understand why they might have thought that, but I knew that I was healthy and strong, and I wanted to be of service. I wanted to be useful. A request came in from Memphis, Tennessee. They were in dire need of nurses there. And apparently we were getting pretty desperate, and so somebody at the U.S. Sanitary Commission finally said, well, let the old lady go and try it. That's how I got there. Now, when I went to Memphis, the surgeons, of course, at first were a little apprehensive. They thought I might get in the way. I assured everyone that I would not get in the way. If I felt myself faltering, I would get out of the way so I wouldn't be a burden. But I think I proved my worth, that I was strong, resourceful, and dependable. I soon started setting up hospitals all around the Memphis area. Did that for a few months, then I was transferred down to Corinth, Mississippi, about 80 miles away, and I set up hospitals there. Then supplies were needed. I went to Memphis. I started transporting supplies from Memphis to Corinth, sometimes fired upon by Confederate cavalry and guerrillas, which I don't think most nurses actually experience that. Then I went to Pulaski, Tennessee for a while. Thought I was going to Sherman's Army then, but I was detoured. I stayed in Pulaski for a little while and worked the hospitals there. You know, that makes me think of a surgeon story I should tell you. As you know, the surgeons did overall accept me, even though they were apprehensive at first. And you heard about the training and the lack of experience some of these surgeons had, and I saw some of this firsthand. I came across a soldier that had just had a surgery, thrashing around in his bed. He could not rest. He was in such pain. It was just not quite normal, and I'd already been doing this for a while to recognize some things that weren't quite right. His ligatures were too tight. He could not relax. After being wounded like this, he's got to be able to rest, to recuperate. I went to the surgeon to have him loosen the ligatures. That man would not get up. He was resting. So I told him if he didn't do it, I was going to do it for him. It didn't go over real well. But I went. He was lazy. He was just downright lazy. He wasn't going to do anything. So I had to do it myself. This man was suffering for no reason. So I loosened the ligatures. I rebandaged the wound. And he almost immediately went to sleep and rested. The surgeon discovered this later. There was a little bit of a ruckus. But I will tell you, I'm still in the nursing corps. He was dismissed from being a surgeon, that insufferable man. Well, I know I have told you that this war is hard, it's brutal, it's tiring. I don't think I can explain it enough. You just can't imagine, and I can't give it words. But I thank you so much for all your donations to the cause, the bandages, the food, the clothing. It's those donations. And I also thank you for your kind attentions to me on this day. Now I'm going to step out of first person character and tell you what happened to Eliza George after she left from her visit in Fort Wayne. She wanted to be back with Sherman's Army. She got to Nashville, Tennessee. She spent the winter of 64, 65 in Nashville hospitals. She wanted to be back with Sherman's Army. By now they're in Savannah, but she had to have a pass. She had to have the proper paperwork. And of course, she's working with the government. The paperwork wasn't there. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. That seems to be a common theme with her. She took matters into her own hands, which I kind of like that. She went to Washington, D.C. to try to secure a pass. While there, she decides to visit Dorothea Dix, who encouraged her and talked her into going to Wilmington, North Carolina, because there was such a dire need of nurses there. She goes to Wilmington. She contracts typhoid fever. Now, this is after the war. The war is now ended. It's May of 65. She's in Wilmington, and our Governor Morton dispatches Dr. William Wishart, which I imagine you've heard that name possibly, dispatches Dr. Wishart, who's still in the Union Army at this time, dispatches him to Wilmington to bring Mother George back home to Fort Wayne. And he does. He goes down there. They meet in a hotel that evening, the day before they were to leave. They had dinner together. And then that night, in the night, Eliza George will pass away. So Dr. Wishart's last mission, last assignment with the Union Army is to bring Eliza George's body back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to be laid to rest at Linwood Cemetery with full military honors.
Excellent, thank you, Eddie. Okay, now we're going to do the presentations of the wreaths. And just because of the way this space is, we're going to put the wreaths behind the monument. So if I could have Brother Cole for the Department of Indiana wreath. Brother Beckman for the Logan's Brigade. You want to get it? Oh, sorry. Okay, we're going to have the ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic, Arsinoe Martin Circle, number 78, got Beth Thurston. Have the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 143, Barb Oswald. Mother George, Amy Meissner. Lindenwood Cemetery, Amber Gonzalez. Surprise you. The LGAR National, Beth Thurston. Yes, you have another one. Okay, Brooks. 14th Michigan SUBCW, Leslie Gosling. And John Otten Camp number 8, Ron Heyer. And that's the end of our race. Captain, take charge, please.
Attention detail. Shoulder, arms. Ready. At a high elevation, aim Ready. At a high elevation, aim. Fire! Recover, arms. Load. Ready. At a high elevation, aim. Fire! Recover, arms. Shoulder, arms. Freeze it. Arms.
Kept.
Detail. Shoulder, arm. Quarter, arm.
That concludes our celebration today. I would like to get everyone in uniform and all the participants to come up and, get some pictures of the group. So, please try to make your way this way.